So, hello and welcome back to our final chapter of the week. I almost said evening of the week of The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. A book I am thoroughly enjoying. I'm just going to keep saying that because I was so disappointed by the last book. So, it's really refreshing to have one that I am enjoying so much. I am very, very eager to find out what is going to happen next because we found the secret garden, but oh boy, is there a lot of chapters left. This one looks like a fairly long one, so definitely just a one chapter night, but I'm kind of eager to get into it. I'm also definitely going to attempt, and I say attempt with a heavy grain of salt, to enjoy the fact that it's supposed to be like 42 or 43 today. The attempt is because it's also supposed to rain all day. But you know what? That's good. That's going to beat some of the snowbanks back because it's, of course, supposed to drop the temperatures back overnight and all of the rain is supposed to turn to snow. But you know what? A 1 day break where some of these snowbanks get knocked down a little bit is definitely welcome. Hopefully nothing ices up too badly, but I don't control the weather. Also, I keep forgetting to say happy holidays, whatever holidays you celebrate. I am not ready for them. I feel like I'm very rarely ready for them, but this time I feel like I'm even less ready than normal. So hopefully you guys are all doing better on the whole holiday thing. So with all of that though, let's go see what's going on in The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett with Chapter 9, which is titled The Strangest House. It was the sweetest, most mysterious looking place anyone could imagine. The high walls, which shut it in, were covered with the leafless stems of climbing roses, which were so thick that they were matted together. Mary knew that they were roses because she had seen a great many roses in India. All the ground was covered with a grass of a wintry brown, and out of it grew clumps of bushes, which were surely rose bushes if they were alive. There were numbers of standard roses, which had spread their branches so that they were like little trees. There were other trees in the garden, and one of the things which made the place look strangest and loveliest was that the climbing roses had run all over and swung down long tendrils which made light swaying curtains, and here and there they had caught at each other or at a far-reaching branch and had crept from one tree to the next, making lovely bridges of themselves. There were neither leaves nor roses on them now, and Mary didn't know if they were dead or alive, but their thin gray or brown branches and sprays looked like a sort of hazy mantle spreading over everything: walls, trees, even the brown grass where they had fallen from their fastenings and run along the ground. It was this hazy tangle from tree to tree which made everything look so mysterious. Mary had thought it must be different from the other gardens, which had not been left all by themselves for so long, and indeed, it was different from any other place she had seen in her life. "How still it is," she whispered. "How still." Then she waited a moment and listened at the stillness. The robin, who had flown to his tree top, was still as all the rest was. He didn't even flutter his wings. He sat without moving and looked at Mary. "No wonder it's so still," she whispered again. "I'm the first person who has spoken here for 10 years." She moved away from the door, stepping as softly as if she were afraid of wakening someone. She was glad that there was grass under her feet and that her steps made no noise. She walked under one of the fairy-like gray arches between the trees and looked up at the sprays and tendrils which formed them. I wonder if they're all quite dead, she said. Is it all a quite dead garden? I wish that it wasn't. If she had been Ben Weatherstaff, she would have been able to tell if the wood was alive by looking at it. But she could only see that there were only gray or brown sprays and branches, and none showed any signs of even a tiny leaf anywhere. But she was inside the wonderful garden, and she could come through the door under the ivy at any time, and she felt like she had found a world all her own. The sun was shining inside the four walls, and the high arch of blue sky over this particular piece of Misselthwaite seemed even more brilliant and soft than it was on the moor. The robin flew down from his treetop and hopped about or flew after her from one bush to the next. He chirped a good deal and had a very busy air, as if he were showing her things. Everything was strange and silent, and she seemed to be hundreds of miles away from anyone, but somehow she didn't feel lonely. All that troubled her was her wish that she knew whether the roses were dead, or if maybe some of them had lived, and maybe they would put out leaves and buds as the weather grew warmer. She did not want it to be a dead garden. If it were a quite alive garden, how wonderful it would be, and how many thousands of roses would grow on each side. Her skipping rope had hung over her arm when she came in, and after she had walked about for a while, she thought that she would skip around the whole garden, stopping whenever she wanted to look at things. There seemed to have been grass paths here and there, and in one or two corners there were alcoves of evergreen with some seats or tall moss-covered flower urns in them. As she came near the second of these alcoves, she stopped skipping. There had once been a flower bed in it, and she thought she saw something sticking out of the black earth, some sharp little pale green points. She remembered what Ben Weatherstaff had said, and she knelt down to look at them. Yes, they are tiny growing things, and they might be crocuses or snowdrops or daffodils, she whispered. She bent very close to them and sniffed the fresh scent of the damp earth. She liked it very much. Perhaps there are some other ones coming up in other places, she said. I will go over the garden and I will look. Mary didn't skip. She walked. She went slowly and kept her eyes on the ground. She looked in the old border beds and among the grass, and after she had gone around trying to miss nothing, she had found ever so many more sharp pale green points and had become quite excited again. It isn't a quite dead garden, she cried. Even if the roses are dead, other things are alive. Mary did not know anything about gardening, but the grass seemed so thick in some of the places where the green points were pushing their way through that she thought they did not seem to have enough room to grow. She searched until she found a rather sharp piece of wood and knelt down and dug and weeded out of the weeds and grass until she made nice, clear little places around them. Now they look like they can breathe, she said, after she had finished with the first. I'm going to do ever so many more. I'll do all that I can see. If I don't have time today, I'll come tomorrow. She went from place to place and dug and weeded and enjoyed herself so immensely that she was led on from bed to bed and into the grass under the trees. The exercise made her so warm that she first threw her coat off and then her hat, and without knowing it, she was smiling down into the grass and the pale green points the entire time. The robin was tremendously busy. He was very much pleased to see gardening begin in his own estate. He had often wondered at Ben Weatherstaff. Where gardening is done, all sorts of delightful things to eat are turned up with the soil. Now, here was this new kind of creature who was not even half of Ben's size, and yet had the sense to come into his garden and begin at once. Mistress Mary worked in her garden until it was time to go to her midday dinner. In fact, she was rather late in remembering, and when she put her coat and hat on and picked up her skipping rope, she couldn't believe that she had been working for 2 or 3 hours. She had actually been happy the whole time, and dozens of the tiny pale green points were to be seen in cleared places, looking twice as cheerful as they had looked when the grass and weeds had been smothering them. "I will come back this afternoon," she said, looking all around at her new kingdom and speaking to the trees and the rose bushes as if they could hear her. Then she ran lightly across the grass, pushed open the slow old door, and slipped through it under the ivy. She had such red cheeks and such bright eyes, and ate such a dinner that Martha was delighted. "2 pieces of meat and 2 helps of rice pudding," said Martha. Mother will be pleased when I tell her what the skipping rope has done for thee." In the course of her digging with her pointed stick, Mistress Mary had found herself digging up a sort of white root, like an onion. She had put it back in its place and patted the earth carefully down in it, and just now she happened to wonder if Martha could tell her what it was. "Martha," she said, "what are those white roots that look like onions?" "They're bulbs," answered Martha. "Lots of spring flowers grow from 'em. The very little ones are snowdrops and crocuses, and the big ones are narcissus and jonquils and daffodillies. The biggest of all is the lilies and the purple flags. Hey, they're nice. Dicton's got a whole lot of 'em planted in our bit of garden." "Does Dicton know all of them?" said Mary, with a new idea taking hold of her. "Our Dicton can make a flower grow out of a brick walk. Mother says he just whispers things out of the ground." "Do bulbs live for a long time? Would they live years and years if no one helped them even?" said Mary anxiously. "They're things as helps themselves," said Martha. "That's why most poor folk can afford to have 'em. If you don't trouble 'em, most of 'em will work away underground for a lifetime and spread out and have little 'uns. There's a place in the park woods where there's snowdrops by the thousands. They're the prettiest sight in Yorkshire when spring comes. Nobody knows when they was first planted." "I wish that spring was here now," said Mary. "I want to see all the things that grow in England." Mary had finished her dinner and gone to her favorite seat on the hearth rug. I wish I had a little spade," she said. "Whatever does thou want a spade for?" said Martha. "Are you looking to take to digging? I must tell mother that too." Mary looked into the fire and pondered a little. She must be careful if she were to keep her secret kingdom. She wasn't doing any harm, but if Mr. Craven found out about the open door, he would be fearfully angry, and he would get a new key and he would lock it up forever once more. And Mary couldn't bear that. "This is such a big, lonely place," said Mary slowly, as if she were turning matters over in her mind. "The house is lonely, and the park is lonely, and the gardens are lonely. So many places seem shut up. I never did many things in India, but there were more people to look at. The natives and the soldiers, and sometimes bands that played, and my ayah told me stories, but there's no one to talk to here, except for you and Ben Weatherstaff. And you have to do your work, and Ben Weatherstaff doesn't speak to me very often. I thought if I had a little spade, I could dig someplace like he does, and I might make a little garden, if he would give me some seeds." That made Martha's face light up. "There now," she exclaimed. "If that wasn't one of the things Mother said. She says there's such a lot of room in that big place. Why don't they give her a bit for herself? Even if she doesn't plant nothing but parsley and radishes. She'd dig and rake and be right down happy over it. That was the very words she said." "Was it?" said Mary. "How many things she knows, doesn't she?" "Eh," said Martha. "It's like she says, a woman as brings up 12 children learns something besides her ABCs. Children are good as arithmetic to set you finding out things." "How much would a spade cost? A little one," said Mary. "Well," said Martha, "at Thwaite Village there's a shop, or so an I little garden sets out with a spade and a rake and a fork all tied together for 2 shillings. As they was stout enough to work with, I think you could get 'em." "I have money in my purse," said Mary. "Mrs. Morrison gave me 5 shillings, and Mrs. Medlock gave me some money from Mr. Craven." "Ah, did he remember thee that much?" said Martha. "Mrs. Medlock said I was to have 1 shilling a week to spend. She gives me one every Saturday. I didn't know what to spend it on." "Oh, my word, thou'rt rich," said Martha. "Thou can buy anything in the world that thou wants. The rent of our cottage is only 1 and 3 pence, and it's like pulling eye teeth to get that. Now, I've just thought of something," she said, putting her hands on her hips. "What?" said Mary. "In the shop at Thwaite, they sell packages of flower seeds for 1 penny each, and our Dicton, he knows which is the prettiest and how to make 'em grow. He walks over to Thwaite many a day just for the fun of it. Dost thou know how to make the letters?" "I know how to write," said Mary. Martha shook her head. "Our Dicton can only read the printin'. If thou could print, we could write a letter to him and ask him to go and buy the garden tools and the seeds at the same time." "Oh, you are good," said Mary. "You are really. I didn't even know you were so nice. I know I can print letters, if I try. Let's go ask Mrs. Medlock for a pen and ink and some paper." "I got some of me own," said Martha. "I bought 'em so I could print a bit of a letter to Mother of a Sunday. I can go and get it." She ran from the room, and Mary stood by the fire and twisted her thin little hands together with sheer joy. "If I have a spade," she whispered, "I can make the earth nice and soft and dig up weeds. If I have seeds and can make flowers grow in the garden, it won't be dead at all. It'll be totally alive." She did not go out again that afternoon because when Martha returned with her pen and ink and paper, she was obliged to clear the table and carry the plates and the dishes downstairs, and when she got into the kitchen, Mrs. Medlock was there and told her to do something. So Mary waited for what seemed to her a very long time before Martha came back. Then it was a serious piece of work to write to Dicton. Mary had been taught very little because her governesses had disliked her too much to stay with her. She couldn't spell very well, but she found that she could print her letters when she tried. And this was the letter that Martha dictated to her. "My dear Dicton, this comes hoping to find you well as it leaves me at present. Miss Mary has plenty of money, and will you go to Thwaite and buy her some flower seeds and a set of garden tools to make a flower bed? Pick the prettiest ones and easy to grow because she has never done it before and has lived in India, which is different. Give my love to Mother and every one of you. Miss Mary is going to tell me a lot more, so that on my next day out you can hear about elephants and camels and gentlemen that went and hunted tigers and lions. Your loving sister, Martha Phoebe Sorby." "We'll put the money in the envelope, and I'll get the butcher boy to take it in his cart. He's a great friend of Dicton's, said Martha. How how will I get the things when Dicton buys them? Eh, he'll bring them to you himself. He'd like to walk over this way. Oh, said Mary, then I can see him? I never thought I could get to see Dicton. Dost thou want to see him? Said Martha suddenly, because she thought Mary looked so very pleased. I do. I never saw a boy that foxes and crows loved. I would like to see him very much. Martha jumped a bit, as though remembering something. Now to think, she said, to think me forgetting that there. I thought that I was going to tell you first thing this morning. I asked Mother, and she said she'd ask Mrs. Medlock her own self. Do you mean, said Mary, what I said on Tuesday? Ask her if you might be driven over to our cottage some day and have a bit of Mother's hot oat cakes and some butter and a glass of milk. Now it seemed as if all of the interesting things were happening in one day. To think of going over the moor in the daylight and when the sky was blue, to think of going into the cottage which had 12 children. Does she think that Mrs. Medlock would let me go? Said Mary. Aye, she thinks she would. She knows what a tidy woman me mother is and how clean she keeps her cottage. If I go, I should see your mother as well as Dicton, said Mary, thinking about it and liking the idea very much. Your mother doesn't seem to be like the mothers in India. Her work in the garden and the excitement of the afternoon ended by making her feel quiet and thoughtful. Martha stayed with her until tea time, but they sat in a comfortable quiet and talked very little. But just before Martha went downstairs for the tea tray, Mary asked a question. Martha, she said, has the scullery maid had the toothache again today? Martha jumped a bit. What makes thee ask that? Because when I waited so long for you to come back, I opened the door and I walked down the corridor to see if you were coming. And I heard that crying again, the same as we heard it the other night. There's not a wind today, so you see it couldn't be the wind. Said Martha, thou mustn't go walking around in the corridors and a-listening. Mr. Craven would be that angry, and there's no knowing what he'd do. I wasn't listening, said Mary. I was just waiting for you, and I heard it. That makes 3 times. Oh, my word, there's Mrs. Medlock's bell, said Martha, and she almost ran out of the room. This is the strangest house that anyone ever lived in, said Mary sleepily, as she dropped her head on the cushioned seat of the armchair near her. Fresh air, and all of the digging and all of the skipping rope had made her feel so comfortable that Mary fell asleep. And that is the end of the chapter. I like Mary so much more now than I did even at the beginning. And at the beginning, I felt a lot of sympathy for her. I mean, it's hard to say that her attitude was really her fault. She wasn't really taught any better, and she was spoiled, but also neglected. That's a weird dichotomy that I think is probably a mostly rich kid thing, to be spoiled and neglected simultaneously. I guess maybe poor people could spoil and neglect their kids, but not quite to the same degree. Anyway, I can't wait to get to meet Dicton and see how many animals he can befriend. And I do like the idea of Mary getting not 1, but 2 gardens. Because if she gets flower seeds and gardening tools, she's going to have to make a little garden out in public if she wants to keep her little kingdom secret. I also love the idea of a secret garden. That is such a cool thought. Anyway, you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to be playing Phasmo tomorrow night, Friday night. And if you're bored and want to get spooked, come and watch me play. I stream every Friday night. If not, have a lovely weekend, and I will see you on Monday.